For my addiction project, I decided to read the book Tweak, Growing Up on Methamphetamines by Nick Sheff. It's a nonfiction book, and it's a true story. It's written by him about his life experiences. And he started drug use when he was about 18 years old. It's actually a really interesting book, and it's one of my favorite books, to be honest. And that's just because it's written about real life experiences, and all the stories are very interesting. It's broken up into different parts of his life, and it runs over the course of 10 years. Starting the book, he described his life in high school. He had divorced parents, some siblings, and he had a relatively happy childhood. He was a very smart student, always very stressed. He described his high school. He did have a family history of alcoholism in his family. His grandparents were alcoholics. And the first time he tried meth, he was 18. He started by using lower drugs such as cannabis and alcohol when he was in high school. And he eventually got with a group of people and got peer pressured into trying meth. And from there on out, it became an addiction immediately. Nick's addiction really hurt his relationships with other people, most importantly his family. He was not welcome in the house anymore, as he had caused multiple fights with his parents, and he had stolen from them before in order to get drugs. He had stolen money or valuables, and he had also gotten into fights and stolen from his younger siblings, so he was just not welcome in the house anymore by his parents. So other drug addicts became like a family to him. One very important person in Nick's life was his girlfriend, and actually a very important turning point in the story was when she overdosed, and he witnessed it and he was there for that. He actually decided to attempt to go to rehab again after that, however was unsuccessful, along with his other multiple attempts. I'd say this book really depicts the struggle of a drug addict, as Nick wanted to get clean multiple times throughout his journey, however kept relapsing and going back into the mindset that getting clean was impossible and this was going to take his life at one point or another. Nick stated being high to be an indescribable wave of pleasure feelings, as if nothing else mattered except for being high, and he also described how things would look. He even said one time in a car ride that the trees were caving in and they looked like spiders and everything dimmed out, and it was hard to focus on certain images. And I think that aspect of the book also makes it really interesting and a unique read, because you don't get a lot of stories that are written from people who've gone through these experiences. An interesting aspect of this book is how it's not located in one place, as Nick doesn't really have a home and travels to a lot of different places, as he doesn't really have a stable income. He makes a lot of money based off of selling drugs, and he actually deals with homelessness a great portion of the story, and he tells his experiences with that, as long as his experiences living in the ghettos or not very good living conditions with other drug addicts. For my APA paper, I wrote about the opioid epidemic and opioid addiction, and it is an increasing problem, and I'd say it really relates to my book because my book shows someone's personal struggle with that. Overall, I would recommend you guys read the book Tweak. It's interesting throughout the whole story. It doesn't take a long time to build up. It kind of just gets right into his addiction and all the multiple stories and situations and scenarios he's been through and all his experiences with drug addiction. And I don't read for pleasure a lot, but honestly, this is one of my favorite books, and I did read it for pleasure twice. So if that doesn't say something, I mean, you guys have to read this book. It's really good.